Hi, welcome to the Fantasy Football Clown Show. I'm your host, Ed Smith. Today we're going to take a look at a league called Dyno, that's 12 teams. It started the summer of 2020, and as I reflect back, this was one of the first leagues I joined. Actually, when I got started, I jumped on Sleeper. It was a platform I played on before, and this league was advertising, and I jumped in with maybe some more old souls, and I didn't really know very much, and so made a lot of early mistakes. And luckily, I don't think the majority of these players play in a lot of leagues, so I'm able to begin to navigate through. It is year number 3 for me, but what I would say is that I started out very balanced and didn't have a good blueprint, and so I've just kind of taken value but didn't understand the value and didn't understand the trading and made a lot of extra trades and had a lot of fun with it with the league. Haven't played the board even very well and haven't established the right communication on the board and maybe misunderstood on the board. And so it was a difficult league for me because some of the rules are difficult for me to understand. And it took me playing in lots of leagues to understand how different the rules are and how I have to play the league a little bit differently. This will be the first year, so year 3, that we're actually going to have an IR spot. So this league for predominantly had no IR spots before this year. Now we're going to add 3. But before that, it really was a challenge, especially through those COVID years, if you think back, of not having any IR spots and just kind of have enough depth to make things make sense. Once I figured out that I had, 40 leagues or so in 2020 and then 75 or 76 or 77, whatever it was in 2021, that you need to build through the draft. And I was a little bit late to the party, so had 2 poor finishes, and I'm actually not sure as I look at this team that it's going to win in year 3 like I like to do with all my blueprints. I think I have to kind of rip it down and get it to a winning spot maybe in year 4 is really where I'm going out, and maybe year 5. Those years is where I really expect this team to take off based on what I've built draft capital wise and running back wise. And even looking back at it, running backs were king here for whatever reason. I think I took Christian McCaffrey with a 101. Again, not understanding that quarterbacks go in Superflex leagues. So the scoring on this is half point PPR, and then a premium for tight ends of 1 full point. So a whole 100% more for the tight ends. But with half point PPR, it does devalue the receiver room a little bit. And 1 quarterback, 1 super flex, 2 running back, 2 receiver, 1 tight end, 3 flex for 10 starters. But think back again to that receiver, only 2 receivers, so they're very devalued. And if you put running backs in those 3 flex spots, you're going to be a lot further ahead, or a tight end. So, kind of with that in mind, you really need to start tight ends in the flex spot if you can get top level tight end ones. Otherwise, you need to start running backs there because the receivers at half point PPR are just devalued to an extreme here. So when you trade receivers, you can't you can't give up anything to get a receiver. You cannot trade. You just got to kind of find them through the draft. And so you'll see how we eventually built this thing with 15 bench, 5 taxi, now 3 IR. I'll be able to maneuver a little bit better with the waiver wire this year, and should be able to navigate a bit with the trade. The one nice thing about this league is that they do trade, and the more they trade, even amongst themselves, the better off we're going to be because the separation and the bad trades are going to happen. And so teams will not understand the value in this league enough that there'll be separation from good teams to bad teams, and there'll be guys that'll make mistakes. And so even if those mistakes aren't with me, that's okay, because what we're trying to do is create 6 good teams, 6 bad teams, and then us being in the 6 good teams. And then eventually us being in the top 2 where we get the buys. So that's kind of the theory behind this league. And so we'll start with the quarterback position, which I know is the most important. It's weak here. So going to have to maneuver a little bit in this league with the age of the quarterbacks and who they are. But that's going to we're going to be able to create some things here with the amount of draft capital we have to get that established and get that turned around by 2023. So I'm not going to give exactly the full blueprint, but we're going to talk about the team and what it is and and where it's going. So the quarterbacks we have are Mac Jones, Carr, Wentz, Mills, Rudolph, Minshew, Dalton, Franks, and Mond. Now, granted, there's only 4 starters there currently as we sit here today of those, and Mills and Wentz are kind of on the last straw, if you will, and Carr is old, right? So we have Mac Jones that's not a great fantasy quarterback. So nothing that stands out in my mind here, but we're just going to wait and we're going to let the value fall, and we're going to create the Trey Lance type quarterbacks on this roster. So 2 years from now, I think you'll find that I'll maneuver enough to get some more Trey Lance, Jalen Hurtsy kinds of quarterbacks that'll be ready to roll and be top 5 guys. And all we need is really 2 of them with the quarterback room that starts to monopolize, and we'll be fine. Now, looking at the running backs, again, we're getting to work here because we're going to see a theme when you start looking at the other teams that we have, but there's not any starters here out of this mess with what we see today as we sit here. We have Robinson is hurt and Gus Edwards, but they're the starters for now. And then we have Foreman, Moss, Jarrett Patterson, Sermon, Herbert, Sargent, Funk, and you guys know I like, Patterson, Herbert, Sargent, Funk. So we have them just as placeholders for now, and just to see where they go, and we'll maneuver through them as they get spot starts and sorts of things. And really, as we're not trying to win this year, we're just kind of moving pieces around, playing chess a little bit with the pieces. The wide receiver room again is weak, but young. And so we've got Devonta Smith, who we do like, and we have Josh Palmer, who we do like, but might be a year away in both of their cases of what we're trying to accomplish. And then we have James Washington, Mims, which we don't care about either of those guys currently. And, we'd love it if one of them stepped up, but we don't expect anything there. And then, as we reflected earlier, we do think the tight end room is where you put the flexes if you don't have the running backs to put there. We have Freiermuth, Knox, Komet, Troutman, Bates, and Bryant. And really, I think we have 4 starters there of those 6. And we probably will trot that out this year at what full point PPR and see how many of them finish top 12. This is kind of a test run in the tight end world, and see what we can accomplish with them. Now, look at the draft capital, and this is where the important distinction of where I try to win in 2023 and 2024 comes into play. In 2023, we have 3 first-round picks, 4 seconds, 4 thirds, 2 fourths. And in 2024, we have 4 firsts, 3 seconds, 4 thirds, 4 fourths. So, we've got 7 first-round picks coming up in the next 2 years after this year's 4. So when we start to look at it in 3 years, we have 11 first-round picks, and through that is where I think that we're going to really be able to build the juggernaut, because we don't have to be all right on those first-round picks, but of the 11, it's fair to say that we should be able to start 7 of those 11. And so, that's just the numbers, the way the numbers work. And if you start adding 7 of my 10 starters come out of the next 3 years rookie drafts out of the first round, I mean, don't forget, we have 7 and 6. We have 13 second-round picks. And so let's just say 3 of them start. Really, all the starters can come from the next 3 years, first and second rounds, for this whole team to start. And then what I have right now can, in theory, totally be bye-week replacements and injury replacements. And that's if I just hit the percentages. And so, obviously, with the 3 and 8, so we got 11 thirds, we might pull a player or 2 out of there. So I'm going to be able to remake the team, if you will, over the next 3 drafts to become a fair juggernaut if I make no moves. So that's kind of what we're building for. And then we have players like Mac Jones that we feel like are very good bye-week replacements. And we feel like we're pretty excited about the tight end room, and we're pretty excited about Devonta Smith and Josh Palmer. We are excited about a couple of the guys that we have, and then we feel like some of the rest of these guys we can just use as trade to just keep improving the team. So that's kind of the stance on this team and where we think this team is. And not that we're trying to lose this year, because we'd like to keep winning. As we finished in 11th place last year, we'd like to get better. But if we don't, let's say hypothetically, with our own first-round pick being, top 3 or top 5 even, if it doesn't make the playoffs, that's okay, because we're going to be able to just come in with the strong picks again, and just make a difference and really begin to have a juggernaut of a team. And that's with a fair amount of fall off in this kind of a league. So excited for what you guys think about this. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you are, thank you. You're the best part of my YouTube channel. And then the notification bell that goes off every morning at 7 o'clock when these new videos upload on each team breakdown. And then any comments you have, tell me that you don't think this team is going to win, and laugh at me for how I orchestrated this team, because I know the build wasn't good. I didn't start this team with a very good build. I didn't understand the value of running backs versus receivers, or I mean quarterbacks with a two quarterbacks situation. And I think it might have been the first league that I actually joined, and so with two quarterbacks that ever played in. So that'll tell you where things were. It was a quick learn. But with the draft capital, I really think that I could turn this thing over and create something that's fairly good down the line with it, and then have some pieces to manage in the meantime as well. So let me know your thoughts. Thank you for joining the Fantasy Football Clown Show. Again, I'm your host, Ed Smith.